These vaccine passports are raising a lot of questions, some about the legality of keeping track of Americans' vaccine status. Today I spoke with Erin Fuse Brown, a law professor at Georgia State University School of Law, to learn more. Professor Fuse Brown, thanks for joining us today.
Great to be here.
Okay, so let's get right into it. Would a vaccine passport be legal?
Yeah, I think that there is some sense that there would be a no legal barrier in terms of the HIPAA privacy rule or any of the other sort of medical laws for private businesses to ask people to produce a proof of vaccination in order to access some services.
So this is being framed as a civil liberties issue, but in the public health sphere, in that sector, this isn't really a new concept, right?
Yeah, I mean, if we think back to other contexts, we have the idea that there are healthcare workers, or to attend school, we do sort of require most people to have a vaccine or have some sort of legitimate reason not to have one. And so we could imagine that that might play out here with the vaccine status and wanting to make sure that everyone who's, re-entering the public sphere is vaccinated, or at least has some protection against the virus.
Is there anything different, though, about COVID in particular?
Yeah, I think what's new, and it's sort of broad, and so the idea that I could certainly see that there's some resistance building to the idea that there might, if there were, say, a federally mandated vaccine passport to access basic, fundamental services like being able to go to school or go to your job or even to travel. So I think that there is some concern about a government mandated vaccine passport, but I don't see a lot of movement in that direction. I think what we're seeing is more of this sort of middle ground of a voluntary system where if there is a way to verify your vaccine status, it could make it easier to return to some level of normalcy, whether it's flying or whether it's attending a large event like a concert or a festival, I think that, or a sporting event. I think that there are some places where you could see a voluntary use of something like a vaccine verification system that would just make it easier to allow large crowds to gather again.
The people who are concerned about these privacy issues and these kind of concerns, they're concerned about maybe this being a slippery slope. First, they monitor your COVID vaccine, maybe they're collecting other data on you and using it for nefarious purposes, perhaps.
Yeah, I think that's always the concern when it comes to sensitive information, and that's why we, in general, do protect health information. But a vaccine card, the one that is from the CDC, it really just has your name. It has what type of vaccine you got and the date you got the vaccine. It doesn't have any other information about it, about your health status, or any other sensitive information about you. So I don't think the vaccine card itself doesn't pose a slippery slope. It's not like they're asking for access to your medical record or your genetic data or anything else that could pose a lot more of a privacy concern. But I think that there is this sense that, again, if it's not the government that's gathering this information, we still want to make sure that there are privacy protections and equity considerations if it's going to be used to make it easier to travel or to even to dine out or to do things that are just sort of the everyday parts of life that we've been missing for the past year. And
you mentioned that some people might have some sort of exemptions. What would those be?
Yeah, I mean, you could imagine how it wouldn't be fair to require someone to provide proof of vaccination. One, if they haven't had access and they're not eligible for the vaccine where they live, for children, for example. But you also could imagine there are people for whom a vaccine may be contraindicated. And again, if they're immunocompromised or if there's some other medical reason that they can't be vaccinated. Really, in some ways, our herd immunity is protecting them too, but to require them to prove a vaccination status in order to access something as fundamental, say, as travel or as education would probably be a step too far. So we would want some reasonable exceptions there for people who have a good reason not to be vaccinated.
What about for religious reasons, for example?
Yeah, I think most states, this is a state-by-state issue, and most states have vaccine requirements, for example, for school, but they do contain sincerely held religious exemptions for those people for whom it would go against their religious beliefs. And I would imagine that this would track those same exceptions as well. And I think that the danger, of course, is that if this does become so politicized, meaning the vaccine or the pandemic in general, then you could start to see that exception being pushed for just instead of religious beliefs, just ideological or political reasons to avoid the vaccine. And that's where you start to see erosion of what this is supposed to do, which is designed to encourage people to get the vaccine so they can return to a life of normalcy.
All right, Erin Fuse Brown, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. We appreciate having you.
Great to be here. Thanks.